Your wife's mood shouldn't dictate yours, but for most men, it does. Whenever she gets stressed, and suddenly you're on edge. She gets emotional and you're scrambling to calm her down. She makes a sharp comment and you're over-explaining yourself, justifying like a scared little intern. This is not leadership. This is reactivity, and it's killing your marriage more quietly than any argument ever could. You're listening to the Be Better podcast. I am Harrison Orr, and after coaching almost 500 men, one truth stands out. Your marriage, your business, and your peace of mind all hinge on one thing: how grounded you are as a man. See, most nice guys will tell themselves that they're keeping the peace by not indulging in an argument, right? Every time there's a hint of tension or emotion, they will just nod along, they'll go quiet, they'll apologize, they'll justify, they'll do what they need to do to keep the peace, not rock the boat, and just make it go away. But I promise you, you're not keeping the peace. You're not saving your relationship. You are actually abandoning yourself and doing more harm than good to the relationship. Because when your mood changes, every time hers does, you become predictable in the worst possible way. You become unsafe, untrustworthy in the moments where she actually needs you grounded. Because if her mood controls yours, ultimately she can't trust you. And most high-performing men don't even realize this, that if her mood is controlling them, she can't trust you. Because what's actually happening, anytime she's playful, thank God, we can relax, I'm good now. But when she's stressed, you get stressed. When she gets emotional, you rush in to calm her down. And then when she gets sharp, you justify, you over-explain, and you accidentally invalidate her reality, and you call it being supportive. But it's not coming from support, it's actually coming from fear. Fear of saying the wrong thing, fear of being wrong, fear of judgment, and ultimately a fear of disappointing her. But the reality is, you are already disappointing her because you're so predictable in the way that you react to her mood. She knows exactly what she's going to get. Anytime she's stressed, she gets tension from you. Anytime there's emotion, it's fixing or disconnection. Or there's criticism, goes into defensiveness. There's no strength there. There's no masculine leadership, there's no groundedness, and that's why everything starts to break down. Because you stop speaking your truth, and consequently, she stops being honest with you. So the desire drops, the connection fades, and suddenly you're just roommates. Because her emotions are not the problem. Your inability to stay grounded in them is. See, a lot of men start to think that if they can avoid these situations, that if they can just get through this moment of time, this moment of tension, this moment of heightened emotions, that she'll quote unquote get over it, or they'll move on. But I can promise you, every time this doesn't happen, this shit gets swept under the rug. Every time that piece gets pushed under the rug, that rug just gets that little bit higher and higher and higher until you get to a point where you can't even see each other because of the mountain of shit under this rug that you've got between you. I'll share a story from one of the guys in the Grounded Man method who came to me and said, like, man, I feel like my wife's emotions control mine. Like every time she's in a good mood, we're good. But as soon as she's stressed or she's not happy about something, myself and the whole house are just walking around on eggshells. And he was telling me how he thought he was being a good man. He thought that by softening, by being vulnerable, by trying to communicate or open up more, that he was doing what he was supposed to, what she needed from him. But then there was no connection afterwards. She would just get frustrated of like, you're not listening. Like, why can't you understand? Because she's not looking to just be dismissed, which a lot of guys do in this situation unintentionally, right? We think that we need to go into problem-solving mode of, okay, there's a problem, what do I need to do about it? When it's a problem not related to us, right? But as soon as it's related to us, it's a criticism or a piece of feedback. Well, there's always a story or a justification or something to protect our image in this instance. And I've definitely been in that space, and it ultimately comes down to a couple of things. Like, first of all, a lack of nervous system regulation, because we instantly go into fight or flight mode in this situation, and we default to our pattern, which up until this moment for you might have been to fight. You get defensive and argumentative, might be to freeze. You instantly go into shutdown mode. You don't know what to say, or you overthink, but you struggle to move and articulate yourself, and you just go quiet in the whole time. Or flight. You just completely avoid the situation and try to say what you need to get out of there as fast as possible. And once we start to regulate our nervous system and ultimately understand our own emotions as well, because I think it's worth pointing out that one reason that not just nice guys, but men as a whole struggle so much in this realm is because as boys, initially, we are not rewarded for empathy or for emotions. We're not rewarded for understanding or expressing our own emotions or understanding the emotions of those around us. We are rewarded for working harder, for output, essentially what we can achieve, and the value that we provide to the team, to the business, to the people external to us. We're not rewarded for our own emotions and who we are as an individual. And that's why many men live their life placing their value on those things. And you'll see many men, if this isn't yourself, that are so successful in business and walk through business like it's an absolute breeze. No issues dealing with disgruntled clients or customers, can handle high pressure stakes and deals and everything, but come back to the home where those traits aren't rewarded as such, and the currency is now presence and connection and empathy. We feel like a fish out of water because there's two different skill sets, two different traits. And if you're not careful, it can be very easy to either just stonewall them and get frustrated and block them out. I provide everything for this family. What else do you want from me? And start citing all the things that you do instead of taking ownership for the things that maybe you're not doing. We look at the things that we do provide, like in that similar sense. We provide the money, the resources, the opportunities, forgetting that as the masculine leader of the household, we're also responsible for providing the emotional stability, the role model figure for our sons, especially, also for our daughters, but everyone in the house, like looking at all the other things that we provide, not just financial and resource based, things that are based off who we are as a man. Now, when we start to look at why this is so prevalent in nice guys specifically, it's because a nice guy hates discomfort. First of all, in himself, and then in others as well. Because quite often, growing up, the nice guy has been responsible for looking after everybody else's emotions. He had parents who had issues maybe, and he had to look after one, protect mum maybe, or look after her, or he was the shoulder that she cried on, or had to look after siblings in a similar space, or somehow learned that his emotions came last, that he came last. So instead of looking at his emotions and dealing with what he had to for himself, would put everybody else as first, and didn't learn how to sit in those emotions. And now something that's a frame that I found really helpful, and also with my clients, is bringing the frame back to ourselves. Because most people will say, I want a deeper connection with my partner, with my kids. But the level and the depth to which you can understand yourself, communicate with yourself, and understand yourself, and even love yourself, will be the depth in which you can do the same with anybody else. It's the same philosophy as, if you're reading at a 3rd grade level and your wife is reading at a 10th grade level, what level do you think you guys are going to communicate at? 3rd, right? You can't just magically go up 5th, 7th, 10th to meet her where she's at until you learn how to read at that level. So then she has to come down to yours. And if there's no improvement at working your way up, it gets frustrating, right? And so if there's any more of a reason to do this work on yourself, I find it's that if you want to be able to give more love and understanding to your wife and to your kids, do it for yourself. And that's when we supply this from a full cup rather than a place of neediness. The other areas of psychology, how the nice guy is reactive in this space of avoiding conflict, is being wrong. Right? We have this image of ourselves of, if I can say yes to everybody, if I can appease everybody else, put everybody else's needs first, then they will see me as this perfect person. Logically, you'll say, no, I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. But nice guys will then try to hide all those flaws and imperfections by doing everything for everybody else. And when there's maybe some proof or a situation where who we say we are and who we like to believe that we are versus our actions or our behaviors or a real life example don't correlate, like they don't match up, that triggers a lot of nice guys because it's now reality or real life proof that you are not who you say you are. That someone else can see through that facade that you're putting on, that you're not as good as you like to paint that you are. And that is tough because now it brings into question all the other frames of reality that we had painted for ourselves and tried to paint to everybody else. But on the flip side, it also highlights that everybody else can see through our shit. Like, we might like to pretend that we're fooling the world, that we're not as insecure as we'd like to paint that we are. We're not as, in control as we like to paint that we are. We're not as organized. We're not as whatever the trait is that you like to paint to the rest of the world. The people that know us the most will see through that. They'll see the difference. And that's not to call you out, to say that you're a bad or a shit human. But when we can let go of that facade that we're perfect and that conflicts mean that we're wrong, mean that our relationship is going to end, mean that we're a bad person, mean that any of these other connotations that you've attached, we can actually start to just have these conversations and remove the label of conflict, right? Because whenever we have these labels of this is conflict, it's a hard conversation, it comes with this tension and this hesitation. For a lot of men, it also incites that one person has to be right, one person has to be wrong. And unless we are so confident, which not many nice guys are, that we can prove that we are right, then that adds another layer of, well, I don't want to have this conversation in case I'm wrong. I look like an idiot. I'm not confident in articulating myself. Like, it's very interesting the amount of people that will shy away from a conversation because they don't feel confident in articulating themselves. It's like a feeling of everybody else is out to get you, or people are going to prove you wrong, or people think you're an idiot, or any of these other labels that you've maybe attached to yourself that you try to hide. And now there's an invitation to own those, to speak into that part of you that says you're not as smart as you say you are. You're not as disciplined as you say you are. You're not as this as you'd like to be, or whatever it is. Because those parts of you are trying to serve you in some capacity, right? But as long as we try to keep them in the shadows and pretend they don't exist, is when they really have power over us. Now, to bring this back to her moods and being reactive, I want you to know that you're not reacting to her. You're not reacting to the thing that she said. You're not reacting to the situation that's facing you right now. You're reacting to your fear of not being enough for her. Just a quick announcement, guys. If you are a high-performing father or a successful business owner who's built the life you said you always wanted, and even a life most men would envy, But deep down, you feel like something's off. Your drive and fire is just Your marriage just feels stale, your energy's just not what it used to be, or maybe you're still stuck in the nice guy syndrome, but you're ready to lead with real presence and confidence again. Well, that's exactly what I help men like you to do. So if you're ready to take action and want to know if my coaching is right for you, either scroll down to the show notes or go to my Instagram page, The Elite Father, and click on the link tree to apply. You've built a business success. Now let's build success where it really matters. Now, back to the show. You're reacting to the potential reality that you are not enough, that you're not as congruent as you say you are. And what that does for your identity is bring everything into question, and that's why that's so scary. But you also need to know that she's not testing you. She's just trying to feel you. See, most men will think that their wife is testing them. Oh, she's trying to prove me wrong. She's trying to get one up on me. But she's not. She's just trying to feel whether you can actually hold her emotions or not. Whenever she's overwhelmed, you get overwhelmed. Whenever she's anxious, you problem solve before she's even finished speaking. And then when she's upset, you take it personally and rush in to try and fix it. And then when she's frustrated, you just turn this into a huge debate. And none of that creates safety. And it's not because you're bad, it's simply because you're reactive. And your wife cannot relax into a husband who collapses every time her emotions enter the room. She wants a man who's able to stay steady, who can hold those emotions and that tension, who can listen without having to jump in and fix everything, and who doesn't flinch as soon as her emotions get heightened. Because the moment she senses her emotions are controlling you, she learns that she can't lean on you. And when she can't lean on you emotionally, she won't lean in physically. And she's not testing you. She's simply trying to feel whether you're actually grounded or not, or whether you're just acting calm every time this pressure hits. And there's a difference in this level of embodiment, and it may not seem so obvious from the outside, right? You might say, well, I stayed silent. I tried to ask her these questions, and I sought to clarify or to understand rather than justify, or I learned these communicational tips and tricks. But I promise you, women are super intuitive, and they are emotional and feeling beings. And so even if the words that leave your lips are the same, she will feel the energy. And that's my big invitation for guys out there, is to look at the energy in which you're showing up. Because on one hand, you've got the nice guy, you've got the self-aware nice guy who knows his traits, knows his patterns, and then seeks to learn the communication hacks, how to understand, how to communicate, navigate conflict and all these things. But underneath, he's still the nice guy. Right? He's still doing this to avoid conflict. He's still doing this to appease her. He's still doing this to get external love, validation, approval. And so that underlying neediness energy, that contractual energy, is still there. And she can feel it. And that's why those changes for a lot of nice guys are so short term, because they haven't changed the man underneath all that. They haven't embodied the grounded man. They're still the nice guy operating with these different masks and tricks, versus the grounded man who, yes, has these ways to navigate conflict and communicate a hell of a lot better, understand his needs and his partner's needs, but does it from a place of groundedness, of witnessing, and of a place of love rather than for love. And so the energy between those is vastly different. And that's the difference between the man who stays the same just with a few new conversational tricks versus the man that creates that deep connection in himself and then in his marriage. And so if you keep letting her emotions lead your emotions, you stop being honest. She stops being open because she'll start to learn, oh, don't be that honest. Don't have that much emotion. Don't share that much, because it'll end in a fight, he can't handle it, and he'll get reactive, and ultimately, I can't be fucked, the same shit that you tell yourself. Can't be bothered fighting over it right now, can't be bothered with that conversation, I know where this goes. Like a kid, last time they shared something honest with you, and it went into a full-blown lecture, and they just roll their eyes and like, yes, Dad, I know, thank you, whatever. And they're just like, I don't want to have that conversation. It's not fun. I don't feel connected. I don't feel like it's fruitful. And so they start to slowly, just little by little, limit what they share with you, limit the emotions that they express in front of you. And when we take away the depth of those emotions and those conversations, what are you left with? You're left with logistical conversations. You're left with roommate type energy. And you're left with a relationship with your kids that you feel like you hardly know each other. That's why there's this frustration and this resentment even, because there's not often one big fight, right? It's not this massive blow up and then everything stemmed from that, because that would be easier to address for most people. It ends, or it creates distance, because the emotional safety and the connection and the honesty slowly evaporates, one of these tiny moments at a time. Because she doesn't need a perfect man. She doesn't want a man who's always calm. She doesn't want a man who is never fazed by anything. She needs a man whose emotional world isn't dictated by hers. A man whose nervous system is reliable in terms of being able to hold his own emotions and hers. A man who doesn't make her anger about him. And a man who doesn't crumble anytime she's overwhelmed or emotional. A man that she can relax into, knowing that he can hold her own storm and everything that comes with it. And now I want to preface this, because I get a lot of comments when I make posts about this, and people will say like, oh, so what, you're just supposed to be the punching bag for her and she can say whatever she wants without any regulation or consequence? No. We are not saying that you have to be the emotional punching bag for your wife, for anyone. All of my content and everything I speak to is on the underlying or overarching preface that you are both healthy and sane people, love each other, and have the overall mission to love each other and are striving towards the same type of life and marriage together. If you feel like you are being the emotional punching bag, or she is pushing this too far, that's where, yes, you need to hold your own space so that you don't get reactive and start justifying or disconnecting as well. But being able to set healthy boundaries and say, this type of communication, I will not tolerate. I will not tolerate being respected or spoken to like this. That level of that boundary in those communications need to come in a moment where emotions are not high. So it's not a reactive, can't talk to me like that, fuck off, go away. It's when you're communicating as adults, not your younger selves. Because every time we get into these arguments where it's tit for tat, you do this, you do that, or some person's reactive, the adults have well left the building here. It's your younger self versus her younger self. And that's why you get to the end of these kind of arguments and like, I don't even know, how the fuck did we get to here? What are we even arguing about? Like, this started about picking up the kids, and now we're at something that happened 5 years ago, and at this and that. Like, the whole trash can gets opened up. That takes work on both sides. But here we're here to work on the man and owning his stuff and holding his space. And then part of that is setting the boundaries when applicable. But most nice guys will miss the fundamental understanding that ties all this together. The reason they ultimately avoid these kind of conversations or even these arguments, because of the belief that needs to be dispelled. And that is, your marriage is not falling apart because you argue. It's falling apart because you avoid the truth. Anytime you feel tension, you pretend that you don't. If she makes a comment, you soften or you retreat instead of getting curious and seeking to understand. She expresses that she's hurt, and then you defend, you overexplain, or you just accidentally invalidate her reality. And so as soon as she's upset, you then jump in, try to fix it instantly so that you don't have to feel uncomfortable. And every time you do this, she starts to learn that he can't hold tension. He can't hold his own truth. He can't own his shit. And he can't stay present anytime there's emotions involved. And so fast forward 5-10 years, you stop expressing your needs. She stops opening up because she knows that you can't hold your truth or her reality. The sex dies, the communication dies, the respect dies, and it's not because you fought. It's because of the truth that you both avoided. And it's the relationship will not die from conflict. It will die from the truth that you are too scared to speak and to own. Like the amount of times, or even relationships, not just mine, but in clients, that have been drastically improved as a result of having these emotional, intense conversations. Because we start to get a level of understanding about ourselves and about our partner. And when we can navigate that, then we can start to grow. Like I implore you, or I invite you to stop measuring the health of your relationship by how often you fight or the intensity of your disagreements, but how honest you can be with each other. Like, for a lot of people, how calm would you feel letting your wife or your partner go through your phone? Letting them have your phone for a week? Would that put you on edge? Would that create tension or stress in your nervous system? Maybe you're not being as honest as you'd like to be. How well can you have these hard conversations, both in terms of hearing the other person's truth without justifying, without explaining, without excuses, just witnessing and being present for that truth? And then how well can you express your truth? Right? Can you express what you're feeling, what your needs are? And in this back and forth is what will highlight the health of that relationship. And so here's a practical application that you can take away if you're feeling like you're very reactive to your wife's emotions. First of all, regulate your nervous system. That is the first thing that I do with every single client that I work with one-on-one and in the Grounded Man method. It is fundamental. If your nervous system is not regulated, if you are not calm in your own mind and body, everything will be a reaction. Every reaction will come from a part of you that learned how to react and deal with things when you were a child. So you will default to that mode every single time. So we've got to regulate our nervous system first. You're like, cool, what the fuck does that mean? First of all, slow things down. Your movements and your breath. So close your mouth, breathe through your nose for 4 seconds, out your mouth for 6. Okay, that's your rhythm now, right? Maintain that rhythm. Now, stop your thinking and bring your attention to your breath and into your body. Do not engage with the words that she's saying. The words are just surface level. Her mood and her emotions are what really need addressing. But before we can get to those, we need to separate her emotion from your identity. Her emotions are hers. They are not yours to take on. Being empathetic does not mean feeling the other person's emotion so that you're now both chaotic, stressed, frustrated, and all out of sorts. That doesn't help either of you. So bring your attention back to your breath. Separate you from her emotions. Hold that silence and that space so that she can express whatever's on her heart, whatever's going on in her. If you are unsure, you can simply ask what she needs in this moment. Do you need a vent? Do you need a solution? Do you need a hug? Then we seek to understand. Okay, so if I've got this right, you're feeling really frustrated because XYZ. And she might say, no, that's not why I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated because this. Okay, right. So just so I'm fully understanding this, this is why you're feeling frustrated. Yes, amazing. Okay, cool. Now I have a full, in-depth understanding of why she's feeling what she's feeling. That makes total sense. I would be pretty frustrated if I was in that position as well. Now you lead where she needs to go from what she said. If she just wants to vent, amazing. Now you've supported her in that. She's expressed her emotions in her space. You haven't needed to jump in to validate or anything. Even if you have a differing reality to what her experience was, that doesn't mean that she needs to hear it. That's our ego trying to protect us and saying, yeah, but you feel yourself twitching that you need to get it out there and correct her. It's like, no, that wasn't my intention. No, this is what happened. It's like, no. She doesn't need my reality right now. She needs her reality to be understood and seen. That is what starts to build the emotional capacity of her being able to trust you and you knowing that you can hold it. This is the heart of presence and masculine leadership in a relationship. To wrap this up, your wife's emotions aren't the test. Your reactivity is. And so when you learn to stay grounded, when you stop letting her mood dictate yours, you don't just save the relationship, you actually become a man she can finally trust again. And you'll actually create a relationship that is far beyond anything you've had before, because you have a much greater capacity to hold emotion and to hold your own state. And then that flows into the state and the energy that you can hold of those around you. Now, if this landed, or this is something that you need to work on, reach out, let's have a chat and see if the grounded man method is right for you. If you want to learn how to regulate your nervous system, integrate these parts so that you can have that deeper and more fulfilling connection within yourself and then your marriage. Otherwise, don't be sorry, be better. And I'll see you guys next time.